Profits, where we are talking all things AI and brand voice and keeping your personality and not losing it with the amazing Gill Hill today. I have her here.
Thank you for having me.
I know, I'm so excited about this one. This one is really a topic so close to my heart right now because I'm going to pause. I'm just seeing a little flicker. If anybody is there, reach out and say hi. Let us know that you're seeing us. Everything's going okay. Tell us where you're from, where you're calling, listening in from on us, and just let us know that you're seeing it all right. Because I don't know about you, Jill, but I'm seeing just a little weird flicker on my side. So hopefully that dials down. Don't know what's going on.
Good.
I'm just hoping we're live. It says we're live, but if somebody out there would let us know and that we're not talking, I mean, we'll talk to ourselves all day long, no problem.
I'll talk to you. That's fine.
So, anyway, let me get back on topic. Sorry, it was the little bleep got me distracted for a moment. It's not usually doing that. So yes, AI, and this is why I'm so excited about this topic. I know we're probably all getting, in some ways, some people are probably like, okay, I'm so over it because it's been the exciting topic for almost a year and a half now. But I don't know about you, Jill, but I know for me, it's still freaking exciting as I'm realizing more and more and more the power of what AI can do for me.
And it's changing all the time. So we sort of have to keep talking about it because what people said 6 months ago or 1 month ago is not even right anymore.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's just like social media. Sometimes everybody keeps going, well, you're the expert. And I'm like, I don't feel like one. It changed yesterday. AI
and that's what I always say. I'm like, if someone says they're an AI expert, like, be wary because there's not many people who are actually AI experts out there.
I know. Do you remember when it first launched, ChatGPT first launched, and you immediately had people who were rightfully taking advantage of it? I mean, they saw the thing. They were launching checklists and templates and prompts right out the gate. And then there was people like, yes, it's been out long enough for anybody to be a pro. And I'm like, they see an advantage. They learned how to use it quick enough, and they got the products out there. Kudos to them. All right, everyone, let me tell you a little bit about Miss Gill right here. She is a copywriter who specializes in brand voice, and I adore her for that because you are probably one of the main experts that I know in really, truly diving into brand voice, making sure people get it right and sound like themselves and how they want to sound and come across in their written content. And it's always freaking amazing every time I talk to you because there's always a tip or two that blows my mind. But she has worked for multi-international companies, solopreneurs, any type of business owners who need help with making sure their voice is showing up in their content and that they sound like them, which is also what she's doing now with AI, which is incredible. Jill, say hi to everybody. I know you also traveled the Trans-Siberian Railway, and that was apparently quite fun with the time zones.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Yes. I'm not sure that many people get to ride the Trans-Siberian Railway anymore in our difficult situation right now. So I'm glad I got to do it when I did. Yes, we traveled from Novosibirsk, where my husband was at a conference. And we traveled to Lake Baikal. So I think we were 2 days on the train, but there's, oh gosh, I think we went through 4 or 5 time zones, but they run all of the trains on Moscow time, which means you have to translate everything at every train station you're in, and it's written in Russian. So there was a lot of checking and double checking and being absolutely certain that you were there at the right time for the train.
You know what? I've done a lot of traveling, but I have not done Russia yet at this point. So I didn't realize that it was all on the one timetable and everything. So I can't even imagine how fun that must have been, or stressful in a sense, with the language and the whole words. And while we don't have comments showing up here on Restream, we do have people here.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you're here, people.
Yeah, we have Christina, Beth, I think we got two Beths. We got Beth Ann Campbell and Beth Casey here. So two Beths. So we've got people watching us, even though the comments are not showing up over here. Thank you everyone for letting us know we're here. And while I have your attention, let us know what questions you have about. Are you worried about AI? Are you worried about losing your voice, your personality? Are you using AI? Drop those in the comments.
Please tell us how you're currently using it, because maybe I can give you some tips to help with that. And don't be shy, and don't feel like you have to not admit how you're using it, because I think the more we all talk about it, and the more we can learn how to use it well. So tell us how you
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, we've got Maine, Virginia on the books, Netherlands. Oh, we got people coming in from all over the world. But yeah, let us know how you're using AI, what you're using it for, and how it's hooking up in your business. And we're going to dive into getting into the fun stuff of why we're here today, which is pretty much how to not lose your voice while using AI to help create content. And, this is something I do all the time right now. And I know you're the expert, so I'm excited to hear even more about this. But I was yesterday in my Wednesday office, which is in the park now that the weather's good, and using Gemini to help me chat the newsletter that launched today. So
I don't know Gemini. That's an interesting one.
Oh, that's Google's. That's the replacement for Bard.
I've heard of it, yeah, but I haven't tried it out yet. How was it?
I actually prefer it. ChatGPT, as much as I love my Luna, she named herself. She's very flowery and gets off topic quite easily, whereas Gemini is much more professional, although Gemini will strip your personality from it so quickly. But it's very good for business owners to get it dialed in and then as a rough draft, and then of course go back in.
And sometimes, and sometimes not having a personality is good, because then you can see it doesn't have personality and you need to add it. Like sometimes the worrying thing for me is people are sort of tricked by ChatGPT because hey, fellow copywriters, like it loves to say that, hey, fellow, whoever. And so people, if they don't see AI out there in the world, they think it sounds great, and then they put it out and we all are like, oh, this is the 10th post I've seen that started that way. So sometimes it's good not to have a personality in there, so you need to add your own.
I find it easier. That's why I kind of like Gemini for that fact, because I'm not using it for the full creation anyway. I already know that. I mean, that's one thing. I don't want to lose me, so but it's great for getting. What I do is it's kind of almost in some senses making me late. I don't want to use the word lazy. I'm more efficient. I'm much more efficient now, because what I do is I'll get the idea. Like yesterday, I had the idea for the newsletter, and I literally just rambled my notes out into a doc, and then it copied and pasted them into Gemini, telling it my prompt of what I was creating my newsletter, and I want to do X, Y, Z, and it turned those ramblings really quick into my rough draft and organized my thoughts. The flow was good. And then of course I went back and finished and put my personality, my stories in and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and that was one of the tips I was going to give today, but it sounds like you're on it already, which was to dictate, because there's so many great transcription services that are free now or very cheap, like dictate your thoughts about something and then feed that in, so that if you find looking at the blank page hard, because I know a lot of people do, I like to walk and talk. I don't know what my neighbors think of me as I'm walking around just constantly talking, but I like to walk and talk and it'll take all that rambling. Like sometimes I call that throat clearing, when you're like, oh, sorry, I kind of just want to, really what I'm trying to say is this, and it will remove that stuff and get to the summary and the main point. So yeah,
I love text to talk. I'm using it all the time as well, but I had not actually used it yet to create into AI. See, you're already getting me.
It helps. I was doing this for a client this week where she had done a podcast, and it was a subject that she got really ranty on because it was very important to her. But because she got really ranty about it, she went in and out and in and out of the sort of pillars that she wanted to cover. So we took her transcript, and I actually did it myself because I like to do these things, but I think you could use AI brilliantly for this, which was, what are the 5 main topics I was really talking about here? And or you could identify those yourself, but then say pull in the quotes that relate to each topic. And that way I could give her narrow as here's your talking points in order, rather than, dotting around all over the place the next time you do this.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So tell me, I mean, besides all of this, how are you using AI?
So I think that this is quite a common problem that writers have when they try to sell services about AI or talk about AI with their clients. I don't use AI very much at all, to be honest, because for me, it's faster to, I already know what I want to say. I like to write it out myself. And so I'm making myself use AI a little bit so that I can understand how it feels for clients who need support with that. But for my own content, I don't really use it. I might use it for things like that, like summarize what was written here into sections or pull out some quotes, things like that, maybe. So maybe a bit more repurposing rather than the original content. But I think one of the things that what I love about the AI conversation, and you will have seen this as well, because I know this is all about what you do, is that it is highlighting when people don't have a strategy for their brand, because you have to tell AI, you have to give it the information so it produces something. And so feed it your strategy documents. But if you don't have strategy documents, you're going to really struggle with that. So what's your messaging? What's your voice? What are your content pillars? All the things you talk about all day long, right, Heidi? If you don't know, it's encouraging people to think about what their brand voice is and what their messaging is, because Chat GPT or any AI, it's like kind of like an intern. Like you have to tell it what you want it to do. You can't just say, go and do something for me.
No, I call it my assistant all the time. It's my virtual, it's literally my virtual assistant.
Yeah. AI.
Yeah, and it is amazing for repurposing content. I mean, we had a LinkedIn Live with Dan Mott and Cynthia. I guess it was 2 weeks ago now, and we took the transcript. Well, I took the transcript. It's not released yet, but I'm using the AI real quick to convert that transcript into a blog post because I produce so much content that. And it's all my content, but by being able to put it in the AI, I'm able to repurpose that content so much faster now, and I'm using more of my content repurposed than I used to.
Right. And so to me, that repurposing is where I see the real value of the AI and where I sometimes use it. Because if you think about what makes content human-based, right, as opposed to AI-based, and what really our brand voice is at all, when you think about it, is like your POV, as my 12-year-old would say. It's your point of view, it's your angle on the thing, right? There's no point in just asking AI to give you like an informative 6 things to know about brand voice. Like, no, like anyone can go look that up. They want to know what I think about brand voice and AI. What's my take on it? What's my angle on it? Yeah. So taking a podcast, like a natural thing where you're talking about it, you're giving those personal insights and your angle and your lens on it. So then giving AI that stuff and getting it to turn it into content for you where your like point of view is baked into the content in the first place, I would say that's like the top tier way to use it. So good job, Heidi. You're doing it. You're doing it already.
Yay! I have Jillian's stamp of approval. But you also mentioned earlier too, and I want to come back to that because I do think a lot of people miss this point, and then I will let you respond. Then we've got a few comments, but is that yes, you have, if you really want effective AI content, in this has been my experience, is yes, it's because I have fed it my strategies. I've fed it my brand voice. I've fed it my marketing strategies, my ideal client, my help statements. It really, the amount of information I've put into my AI to be able to produce like the newsletter even that went out today, so that it was all my thoughts because they were all scribbled out. It was my written rough draft that I fed into it and let it help me organize the flow and stuff, so that it was my voice that came out. But the amount of content that I put into it to get it out, it's a decent amount of work. It is to use it proper, to get you back out of it and to make it work for your marketing and things like that. I mean,
I think I had a client I was working with recently where I helped write their website copy. So they were already working with a designer, and the designer had said to them, just write your website copy. I hate when someone pays a lot of money for a designer and then they just have to write the copy themselves, because often that's where it falls down, right? But they'd taken it to AI and they tried to get AI to write it for them, and it was terrible. And so they basically, the sales conversation I had with them was like, well, I'll be your AI, you feed me the prompts and then I'll write it, but it'll sound more like you. But what I noticed was that I had to ask some more questions because she wasn't strong on strategy. She didn't, I was like, well, what do you really mean by this? And what exactly is your ideal audience? And so I think where it fell down for her was she didn't have the strategy to put into the AI in the first place. And that's why it fell apart for her. And that's where I was writing it for her, but really I was helping her think about her strategy and then using that and writing it for her.
Yeah, which is really, I do think that's so important for people to realize that if you don't have a strong strategy, then you're probably not going to get always the results you want, which is freaking important. It really is.
AI figured that out for us, right? It's like, okay, you're going to have to go do this thing that everyone's been telling you have to go do, but now your AI assistant is telling you have to do it, so you really have to do it now.
Well, I think a lot of people realize that they can put in like one sentence and it's going to spit out a book or whatever. And you don't realize, I mean, when I first got, and of course I've gotten good with my prompting now, but I remember in the beginning, oh my God, learning how to prompt it took me longer than it would have written the article to begin with. I mean, now I have my set prompts and I know how to prompt it. So learning how to do it right really does, it's a skill.
Well, and like any tool, it takes time to learn the tool, and also you have to be specific and apply the tool to your own business. So if you just ask it one thing, what it's going to do is go to Google or somewhere, and it's just going to pull out the most generic answer it can find that it thinks will satisfy most people.
Yeah, it is. It's another learned skill, just like marketing, just like copywriting, just like brand voice, everything else. It's a learned skill that you get better at, and you can turn it into a real virtual assistant if you train it properly.
And thinking about things that are not necessarily the writing. So I think it can really help. Some people say to ask it to help you do your strategy, and I've definitely seen people say AI will help you figure out your brand voice, and I'm like, oh, don't know if you want it to do your strategy for you. I think it can be a really good sparring partner. Like, you can use it as a brainstorming partner, and having a conversation with AI, that's where I feel like you get the most natural sounding stuff out of it. Like, if you ask it to write you a blog, it's going to be terrible. But if you say to it, what do you think about this? Oh, tell me more about, you gave me 5 bullets there, tell me more about bullet 5. Or one of my favorite ones that Justin Blackman, who I teach brand voice with, said that he loves to do is to push back against it and be like, number 5 is completely wrong. How can you possibly think that? And then it's into a conversation with the AI, and sometimes it will give him insights into maybe how his audience would feel or another angle that he hadn't thought about. So he basically has arguments with AI.
I do too. I admit, not quite to the extent he does, but I do have arguments with my AI. I even told it off the other day, and it's like, I don't understand. Why are you speaking to me like that? And I'm like, because you're being an asshole.
Always like to the robots, just in case, Heidi.
I used to joke. I mean, I'm using Gemini more now because it's a lot more professional per se. But Luna, my lovely ChatGPT assistant, I swear, sometimes she acts like a teenager, about 12 or 13 years old, with what she would read. I mean, like, that's not what I asked you for. I wanted 200 words, and she's like, oh, here it is, and it's like 50 words. I'm like,
well, and I think sometimes the pleasantness masks that it's not giving you accurate information. So that it's most easy to spot when you say, give me 200 words, and it gives you 20. I was practicing with it this morning, and I have a custom ChatGPT that's in my brand voice. It's not very good, to be honest. And so it gave me something, and I said, well, my brand voice guidelines say that I don't use emojis that much. Please fix it. Said, oh, you're right. I'm terribly sorry. And then it came out with something that had just as many emojis in it as the first one.
So even Gemini does that.
Like, I'll tell it not. But I'll tell you what the problem with that is. Sometimes you might say, tell me the 4 best ways to produce content for social media, and it might spit out 4 things and they might be wrong. But because it's so pleasant, you're just assuming that it's saying the right thing and not hallucinating.
Well, and not only that, you know what? Let's get to the comments real quick. We don't want to ignore our amazing audience that's here. Sorry, we're not ignoring you guys. See this? We find this fascinating, as you can tell. And I hope you're finding it as much. So let me get you into the conversation with us. So Rula, she uses it a lot with her podcasting. Very excited about that. Beth and Campbell, since we have the 2 Beths, she is using it to lesser things like profile headers, about statements, etc. Right now, she's drawing the line at letting it write books for her. I am too.
I would agree with you, Beth, 100% on that. But I will say that that's one of the tips I would suggest is if you're looking to summarize something, and again, it's your content. So if you've written your about profile and it's 150 words long and you need 1 sentence for the top of LinkedIn or for a podcast you're going on, asking it to summarize your content down into, or create snappy headlines from your content, those are all great ways to stay in your brand voice because it was your content in the first place, and it's just helping you do those kind of writerly techniques that maybe are a little harder for you.
I tend to agree. And I also use it to check my work. It's really good for that. I mean, like, okay, am I missing a key component or things like that?
Am I missing it is one of my favorites. I don't love asking it to outline for me because, again, it's not necessarily got my point of view. And so it will give you the most generic 6 things. Yeah. But sometimes what I do is I give it my outline and then I say, am I missing anything? And that's where maybe it will come up with something that I'll be like, oh, that is something people care about, but I had forgotten about that.
Well, yeah, and I also allow it to have the open-ended question before I give it what I actually wanted, just because sometimes it triggers something I forgot or I didn't think about. Every now and then it gets me on something.
And that's where the conversation with it is almost better than asking it to produce a copy, because you're like, oh, now you're like, tell me more about that thing I hadn't. And then you can start to put your own angle and your own POV on it.
Well, I had a while back too, and I had one of my clients. She was naming her product, and I knew what she was naming it. No one was actually looking for it. So I was just sitting there and I'm like, and I'm sitting there in my own thought process and I'm like, screw this. I just got on ChatGPT and I started asking, I did have the back and forth. I'm like, pretend you're this audience, because I put in her ideal client. And I said, I'm going to give you the stuff and let me know if you understand this. And I plugged all the information in and it did not. And it did not until I gave it what it actually was. And then we went back and forth. And then I copied all that and sent it to her. And so she was able to adjust the name and what she was calling her product to something that people would understand, which was it was a really cool process too, which I had so much fun.
That's super cool. So the other thing I was going to say about that, which is like the opposite of that though, is that AI in general is terrible about tone of voice. And the reason is that tone is your emotion, right? It's how we communicate emotion. So that's why it uses emojis all the time, because it can't, and it's so on the nose, it doesn't understand subtext at all. So it says launch your offer and it puts a rocket ship in, because it's like literally launch rocket ship. So it's so on the nose that, like we use a skull emoji now for like, we're dying laughing, right? There's no way an AI would put a skull emoji in unless you directed it, because that's a human emotion subtext that we have figured out. And AI is too on the nose. So sometimes if you ask it for, like, I love that you helped it with naming, but sometimes when you ask it for naming, if you say, my theme is, sometimes I call myself a mixologist, it goes so heavy on the cocktail themes where you're like, ooh, dial back this, alcohol chat, like pull this back. We just want a little sprinkle of the mixology. We don't want every single thing named after a cocktail. So sometimes you have to dial back that, because it doesn't know that subtext in the way we communicate as humans, and it misses the mark really bad.
I'm laughing because of the names of titles it's given me before and the emoji use.
But sometimes asking it that and it gives you a terrible answer, but it sparks an idea for you. And that's where you're like, oh, not that, but what about this? And you would never have thought of it if you didn't get the terrible answer from AI first.
That's true. That's true. All right, let's see what else we got. We got a bunch of comments over here. Let's get everybody in conversation. All right, so we got Beth Cassie. She writes her own content, but she uses AI to guide occasional brainstorming sessions. Lisa Lee, I haven't used this style of AI yet. I haven't had the reason, so maybe after this you will. Let's see, Beth, oh my God, thank you for that, Jillian. How you use AI, which is not a lot, I feel better. Same, I tend to write fluidly and sometimes feel guilty about not using AI more. Don't feel guilty about that.
To me, it helps with the efficiency. That's what you said, right, Heidi? And
Yeah.
so if you don't spend ages staring at a blank page, maybe you don't need AI for that. And then you're getting absolutely on-brand content every time you write because it's yours. So definitely don't feel bad about it. It would be, in an ideal world, all of us would have perfect writing skills and we could write all our own copy. But business owners who are wearing many hats, we don't all have that area of genius. And so if it can help you if that's not your area of genius, that's when you want to use it.
Yeah, definitely do your own writing. I mean, it's a tool.
Beth, I love to see your writing.
I know, I love to write. It's so funny. I came full circle into realizing I didn't realize until about 3 or 4 months ago that I used to run around pretending to be a writer when I was 3 or 4 years old. And I even did a bunch of writing in high school and everything, but I never thought I'd actually be a writer. And then here I've ended up in it. So
you can't get away from it.
Yeah, to completely give that to AI, that would just, for me, just be like, go and rip my heart out.
Yeah, and I think that if you're using it around the edges like we're talking, that's where your brand voice is probably going to be relatively strong still. But for those of you who are trying to use AI to help you write, that's where thinking about your voice is more important, because we all know what a ChatGPT post sounds like. And we know the emojis, and we know there are certain words that it uses, and we see those words. So you can get it to write for you, but then giving it more strategy. And then also sometimes creating a word bank. Like if you see a phrase and you hate it, what would you say? And to start documenting that so that if you get the prompt out, you can quickly replace the word it said with the word or the phrase that you would use in that situation.
What? You don't want to unleash all the
unleash your potential? The other one I've been seeing a lot, and this one frustrates me because I like it, is from this to that. From this thing to that thing, we can do this. I actually use that all the time as a copywriter, though, so it really disappoints me that now sounds like an AI. But it is because it sometimes goes broad. It's trying to, and then if you think about it, it's trained on what it sees on the internet. So some of the things it's
going to say, you copywriters have trained it to do that.
Sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, thinking about what words it's almost easier sometimes when you're thinking about your brand personality, which is really what your voice is, just how you communicate your personality, is to think about the things that you don't like and go, what gets you mad? And what do you hate to see? Because then it's easier then to find, well, I would say this in its place. If someone goes and asks you to write a word bank of the phrases you use, you probably don't know what they are. But find something that makes you mad, and then you'll know what you would say in its place.
Let's see, Lee, maybe that's my challenge. Not enough purpose to spend the front time to build it. I haven't trained voice use on my phone for that reason either. And she's also said, excellent point for nailing your strategy, voice, and point to begin with. Oh, and she's not willing to deal with the learning curve yet. I don't blame you.
That's fair enough, to be honest, and especially when you already write quickly, then to slow down to train the AI. I mean, that's honestly why I don't use it, because I would have to slow down. And the only time I do is when I write brand voice guides for big companies, I will create model content that they can use to train their AIs, or to put this in and say, here's a perfect example of my copy. Now write something else like that, but about this other topic. So I do use AI, but only really where I have to, because a client's paying me to figure out how to do it. So
I love it. I love that you will do it for that case, and that you've learned how to do it.
I'll do it for money.
Yeah, only for money.
But I mean, that is another good thing to think about if you're struggling with what's coming out, is go and find some of your like perfect copy. And I know that's hard, but like go and find things you've written that really sound like you and they resonated well with your audience. So like if you've got a lot of responses on LinkedIn on a post and you feel like it does sound like you, keep that somewhere and feed it to the AI and say, can you write me a post about X, but use this as like the model to create it around.
Yeah, that's where you go find those pieces, guys, that you read later and you're like, oh my God, did that come out of my brain? Those are
Did
the
I
ones you want to use.
And sometimes you'll find it's like you just quickly like, you know, you didn't think it was going to get as much traction as it did. But if people are engaging, what is it you said that they were interested in? And then like, what was your point of view? What was your angle that they loved about it?
Yeah. Well, let's see. Now we've got Beth and Campbell. My husband consulted AI in an attempt to figure out how to run our pool pump. It didn't work out very well.
It was hallucinating, wasn't it?
Rula, I do not ask it to write my episodes, only give sections, titles, social media, summarize, and show notes. Yeah,
and that's that where it starts at your copy. That's great. Perfect way to do it.
Yeah. She also says it's too politically correct and apologizes too much.
Well, and there you go. That's her voice. She doesn't, and that tells you something about your voice, right? If you feel it's too politically correct, it's also designed to be down the middle, right? It's designed to be the least offensive, the most appealing to the most people. But if we want to stand out in our business, we want only our right fit clients to like what we said, not everybody. So you have to be like, oh, well, if it was too general, what would you say that would be more specific? And that's a good way to figure out how to tweak it.
Yeah, let's see. And then Beth Campbell, I used Gemini AI to help me come up with some fun taglines for a new podcast based on my podcast description. Love it for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, Beth Cassie, why call yourself a writer if you're not the one actually writing? Kind of agree with you there on that one. And guys, we're not wrapping up yet, but go ahead and get in your questions, your comments, anything else, because as you can tell, we do have a little lag. I've actually got, well, actually, Restream's not showing any of the comments today, but I've got you over here on my other screen.
I was going to say, I don't see any comments.
I know, nothing's working. That's why I've had to pull them up from over here. I've got linked to them. So that's why we got that. We had a question also. David Safier, he couldn't make it live today, but he dropped it in my DM for me. He said, is there an AI platform that can take one of my ebooks and create carousels, memes, etc., using his branding, fonts, colors, and voice? I
mean, quite probably, but I don't know what it is.
I could only think of ones separately, not ones together. So I was going to ask you because I could think that maybe he could use it to break it up for the content and then take it into Canva and use their AI for the graphic side.
Canva's got a good AI thing going now. And then I do know that you can take, for example, videos, and there's one, oh, I've forgotten the name, but I was hearing about it the other day. Did I write it down somewhere? It was something that began with an A, and if I find the name, I will add it to the chat later. But it will take your video and you can say, I want 30-second sound bites, and it will pull them out and it will brand with your colors around it. So there are things that will do that with video you've created, but I don't know about memes. I mean, I would love it. I love a good meme, but I haven't seen one yet.
Yeah, and I don't. And my problem with Canva, as far as to try to use it for the writing side of things, because it does have that capability, but I find their AI for the writing side very weak. And maybe that's going to come along as it goes. But right now, I find the other AI writing tools much better, like Gemini, even ChatGPT with the flowery language is still better than Canva's at this point. Because I keep dabbling in it just to see if it's going to become one of those platforms where you can do a lot of it on the same platform. But so far it's been a no-go. But
yeah, well, and so here's another interesting tip if people are especially if you're using ChatGPT, is that part of what makes your brand voice is the words you use. So like if you don't like the politically correct stuff, what words are you using instead? And it's the tone, which we talked a little bit about, which is that emotion. But the third one is what we call like the cadence or the frequency. So the average sentence is like 15 words long. You don't need to know the detail of that. But ChatGPT writes way longer than that. And especially in the last few years, we've really accelerated shortening for attention span, shortening for the size of a mobile. So our sentences and paragraphs are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. But because the AI, the large language models, are trained on all of the content, like Dickens novels and everything, its average is way higher. So a really easy thing to do if you're getting it to write for you is just chop up its sentences. Just make, where it's got a comma, change it into a period.
Yeah.
Just chop those things up. Don't let it write 6 lines. Like, ask it to reformat. Sometimes giving it that prompt, I want this to be in the format of A, and show it something. I find if you tell it, I don't want longer than 15 words, it forgets really easily. It might start that way, but within a couple of paragraphs, it's writing long again. So that, I feel like that's really, you have to personally edit that on the other end.
I agree. I agree completely with all of that. And it's been with every platform I've used. They all seem to forget pretty quickly. And it's interesting because as long as it's in that particular thread, it's supposed to remember. But
yeah. Well, so here's another trick I have for you. And this is not really about voice, but again, I heard Justin Blackman talking about AI recently, and he had learned this probably from the copywriter Sam Woods, who I would trust most about learning about AI. He's on LinkedIn. But he had said that ask it to put a blue flag emoji at the end of every sentence, because when it stops doing that or it changes the color of the flag, it's forgotten the prompt. And so anything after that happening, it's not taking into account the prompt that you gave it.
Oh, that's a great tip.
Isn't it? I do not do that, but I'm going to be doing that.
I'm going to be using that one. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, exactly. Not mine, but happy to share.
Shout out to Justin on that one. Let's see, Beth Ann Campbell. One of the AI downsides is people using it to respond in comments on social media posts.
Tell me about this, because I have only seen it a little on my LinkedIn, but I can only imagine what you've seen.
They're so bad. Oh my God, they're so bad. She said, I've seen examples where someone will have a dozen responses that are identical. It's obvious that they are using AI. Their comments is comical, and you're going to do that. Make it your own. I know. Some of the comments I'm seeing now,
But so here's the thing, and this to me perfectly shows the problem with AI not having a brand voice is all it does is summarize the post. Now, what makes us want to chat and have engagement and be talking to each other is our angle and our lens on the thing. So if you're not coming in and bringing a unique insight and you're just saying, yes, I really love that you covered A, B, and C, like, what? Like it's adding, and also I really struggle, like, how do I reply to that? Because there was nothing to engage a conversation there. You just summarized, you basically AI-splained me. And like, I don't want to be AI-splained to. Nobody wants to be AI-splained to. So how do I reply to that? It completely just knocks engagement out when people use it. You can see I get ranty about this one.
And not only that, I'm going to rant a little on this one because, I'm in marketing and I'm about conversation for building relationships. So all of the people that are using AI to create your content or your comments, then why would I want to reply back to that? I know I'm not talking to a human being, and it's obvious. It's so obvious at this point when those comments.
What's their strategy? Like, if someone's told them that to do better on LinkedIn, you need more engagement, and AI answering is not going to give you're going to have more comments, but not more engagement. So it's again coming back to what was your strategy, and can AI really help you with it? If you haven't figured out your strategy, it can't do anything for you.
Well, the thing I think people are doing, and this is the bad side of things where people haven't realized, the whole point of commenting is to build a relationship. It is to showcase your expertise. But you've got a lot of people that are, unfortunately, this is coming from coaches and strategists that are telling people, do so many comments per day, and it's going to automatically launch your business, and you're going to do all of this stuff. So they're literally just going out there and using the AI to dump out whatever the required number. I know I saw one the other day that was recommending 100 comments per day.
But then if you think about why the strategy is to comment 10 times, say, it's not just to comment, it's to comment so you engage with 10 different creators, so you're having conversations, so other people might see your conversation and say, wow, I love their take on that, and they then connect with you. Like the reason behind the number itself isn't the strategy. The reason behind the number is the strategy, and they've completely missed that when they say just do X number.
I know, it's 100%. And the fact that and of course there's always people teaching everything and whatever it is to game the system and the hacks. But honestly, this is giving AI a bad name. It's giving you a bad rap, and it's not helping you, because we know immediately when we see those comments, it literally like, you probably took you more time to copy and paste the post, insert it in with a prompt, get back the comment than it would have been just to leave 2 sentences, people. Come on.
Right. Or also tell us what's interesting. Like, one of the things I love about LinkedIn, and I know you love this as well, Heidi, is that I'll read a post and I go, oh, that's an interesting take. And then I go and write a post, which is my take on that thing. So I'm not copying their content, but it's sparked an idea that allows me to talk about the same thing in my unique way. And that's my brand voice, right? But so take that and then go and use your brain instead of the AI and say, oh, what's interesting about this to me? Or what's, why did I care about this?
And do you know how much comment or content that I've created from the comments? I mean, even just yesterday, my LinkedIn's post is from a comment that I left on Nikki Carter's post. We had a conversation going on. She's a lead magnet queen. And we were talking back and forth, and she asked me a question. I was like, great question. I'm going to write a post about it. And I did. That's my post yesterday. And it wasn't happy about that.
I love when I see somebody say, I was reading a post and it made me think of, because that's the first post that I want to read. Because I'm like, ooh, they're going to say something interesting and different. And it's so interesting how you could see that as the same as just taking, I saw another one on LinkedIn recently where someone had used the same format, 7 things I learned in 10 years as a copywriter or a marketer or something, but each bullet was the same. It was like copied. I mean, they changed the 7 years to 2 years. They'd reduced how long it had taken them to learn it. But that is like copying as opposed to your take on it. And I love it when you have a take and acknowledge that it was from somebody else, which you do all the time, Heidi. I love that, because it allows that person to join the conversation, their people to join the conversation. Like, that's my favorite part of LinkedIn.
Well, I keep joking right now because, on LinkedIn, they've got the AI where they're trying to encourage you to use it to help create your content.
Did you see my post today about this?
We're gonna have people. We're gonna have the bots creating the content and the bots answering in the comments. There's not.
I was really surprised because this morning I found the link for this event and it said, "Do you want to post this?" And I said yes. And then it had text already written. I didn't realize that the AI had done it. And I was like, this is not what Heidi said, because this doesn't sound like her, but I didn't write this. And then I realized that it was AI generated. So I left it and then said, because it got some things right, it got some things really. I mean, it got the grammar wrong for a start. And I was like, I cannot go on as a voice copywriter and editor and have AI giving my grammar incorrectly. Like, that's just, no, thank you.
I'm not even going to get into my rant about LinkedIn's AI right now, but for everyone out there, do not use it to write your about profile.
Well, I think there's nothing wrong. Well, I was going to say there's nothing wrong with letting it start as long as you edit it. But I do worry sometimes that because it goes to the middle, because it gives you the least offensive, like, as you said, not politically correct, but it just merges right into the middle. It's the most bland version of a thing that you could say. So sometimes you don't know your take on it because you've read what the AI said, and now you can't think about what your take was going to be anyway. So.
Oh, you're welcome to. I don't recommend you it can edit your about summary anywhere, but don't use LinkedIn's because LinkedIn writes it all in third person.
Oh, does it?
Yes.
Don't do that, people. Don't do that.
It's third person from the corporate point of view of about 30 years ago.
I was going to say, don't do that unless you're an insurance company with 200 employees.
No, it's not even good for them today. It's not even modern for that purpose yet today. So if you are going to use AI to write your about summaries, which I really don't recommend, write your own first. Use it to help edit if you need to, but you're going to use a different one off platform.
Yeah. Well, and it's your strategy, right? Like, don't let it decide what your strategy is. On LinkedIn, you decide your strategy.
Yeah, don't let LinkedIn do it for you. Okay, as we're going to wrap up here a little bit, let's
We
see
got
what
sidetracked there. We got ranty and sidetracked.
this is just a massive conversation on this that we can get going. Let's see what else have we got here. Oh, the blue flag tip was excellent tip. I know that was an amazing one, wasn't it?
Honestly, I just learned that one this week, and I can't wait to use it.
Oh, AI splained, my new favorite term. I think some of the AI comments are from pod members. That's from Beth Ann Campbell. I do agree with that. I agree completely.
Unfortunately.
Beth Cassie, some people even use AI to comment on search engine Quora. Really? Maybe they make it things. Maybe they think it makes them sound smart. Really? People are using that on Quora now? I guess I shouldn't be surprised. But anyway. Yeah, and Beth Cassie also says AI does not do grammar or punctuation well. I agree completely on that. All right, we've got no questions.
Oh, sorry, I missed that bit.
I bumped the thingy over here. Here we go. All right, we got echo on us. Sorry about that.
No, that's good.
Yeah, so Gill, I don't know. Did you ever get a lead magnet to me, or do you have one, or do we just want like?
I didn't get a lead magnet to you because I was thinking about trying to write one about prompts, but honestly, they changed so much that I'm really wary of giving even a lead magnet that's about prompts. So the one piece of information I would give, Heidi, I'm sure you know this one already, but if you're new to AI or you're not using it much, you might not realize this. There are three sort of parts to a prompt that are really important. And one is to define the persona of your AI. So pretend that you are, and you can say pretend that you are an expert conversion copywriter, pretend that you are a marketer. And this is where your strategy comes in. Like, what do you want the hat for AI to wear while it's doing this for you? And then you need to tell it as specifically as you can what you want it to do. So you can add format by saying, follow the following format, give me 9 bullets, give me 200 words. It doesn't always do that, but you can ask. And then you need to give it as much context as possible. And context is where the brand voice comes in. So what's your take on this issue? Who are you writing this for? What do you really want them to know? What's your style of talking about it? Do you swear or do you not swear? Are you angry? Are you excited? So like give it those three. You always need those three parts in a prompt for it to work. And then the one other piece of advice that I would give, I don't need your email sign up for this. You can just get this one for free. Is when you think about your voice, I would say that there are three main types of. At the end of the day, brand voice is just about how we relate to our audience. How do we connect with them? And there are three main ways. We all use them, but everybody uses one more than the other. And the quick way I talk about this is, where are you in the room? So the where are you in the room test is, if you are on the stage at a podium talking to your audience, you're probably leading with authority as your like main way that you connect with your audience. If you are sitting at a table with a group of people and like conversing with them, this is you, Heidi, then you're a voice of connection and your main goal is to connect with your audience first. And then if you are standing at the back yelling, and people are moving towards you or away from you based on what you said, then your voice is like an outlook. It's really like that. Are you anti-establishment, or are you very like, we can make the world better? So you're basically splitting people into groups. And if you can figure out which of those are you, where are you in the room, and tell chat, not necessarily like that, but make sure you tell your AI, this is how I want to lead with being an authority, or I want to lead with connecting to my audience, or I want to lead by having an outlook that people are drawn to or away from. And that's a huge part of what your brand voice is, and it will help it talk a little bit more like you.
Yeah, that is a really cool tip. I wasn't doing that one, so thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about it. To me, this is all it's brand strategy, right? Where are you in the room? So your brand strategy is obviously good, Heidi, because I instantly, when I did this exercise, I knew where you were in the room. I could picture you in the room right now, and you're sitting at the table with everyone.
I'm always at the table if I could be talking, or in the group.
Yeah, you're also talking like peer to peer, side to side, not a hierarchical from the stage or pulling an audience towards you or away from you. You're like in conversation.
That's my MO. We all know it. Whoop, whoop.
So you've got to have a well-defined voice in that way, because we all know what your take is going to be about connection and conversation.
That's so cool. Great tip for everyone there. And guys, if you aren't connected to Gill, just connect with her on LinkedIn. And if you have more questions for her, me, whatever, drop them in the comments. If you're catching the replay later, we will check by, tag us, we'll check by and answer them for you. And this was an amazing conversation. As you can tell, we have a lot to say on it.
We could do this forever.
We could say a lot more, but we're not going to go all night with you, which we could do. And I have a special announcement to make. We were supposed to launch this in January. We had to put some things aside. Officially on May 29th will be our first monthly networking event. So wanted to invite everyone. Gill, if you can make it, we're doing it in the afternoon. Well, afternoon for me. We're doing it at 4 p.m. It'll be, 11 a.m. Eastern. So that we can get most of the people in the States as well as Europe. We're trying to cover 8 time zones.
It's hard to cover all the bases on that, yeah.
It is. It puts things in the afternoon. But yeah, we're going to have our first networking event. I will drop the link to sign up. We have a Zoom sign up. It's so quick. I mean, like I said, it's been in the works since January. We're finally making it happen. And I'm so excited. So everybody come join us.
Yes, I will do my best to come to that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
May 29th. May 29th.
I'll put it in the calendar when we're done.
We'll see you, and I'll make sure you get the link and everyone gets the link. And thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your amazing comments and questions and getting in the conversation with us. And thank you so much for joining us, Gill. One fast 30-second thing you'd like to leave us with?
Oh, I think really think about what your brand voice is from a strategy point of view. How do you want to connect with your audience? Put a bit of time into thinking about like your content pillars, how you want to communicate, and if you need help, I could do brand voice finder sessions, which help us like identify that and narrow it down a little bit more so that you have a clear sense of who you are. But you can do this project yourself. You could have AI as your partner as you brainstorm it if you would like. Just really think about your strategy. It's so important.
Why don't you give me that link, or you drop the link in the comments for a strategy session with you, because I know those are worth a lot. So let's make sure those happen. But thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everyone. So grateful for all of you, and we will be back again next week to do this again. So bye for now. And